I thought moving to this quiet neighborhood meant peace. I was wrong, dead wrong. Sunday morning, coffee in hand, birds chirping, everything normal until I saw them. Two black SUVs rolling down my street. Slow, calculated, like predators. I froze, my gut screamed danger. Maybe it's nothing, I told myself, but something felt off, very off. They stopped in front of my house. Windows down, staring, no hello, no wave, just watching. I laughed nervously. Maybe neighbors were filming a prank video. Then the doorbell rang. Two men in dark uniforms, badges gleaming. "Good morning, sir. We are HOA enforcement officers. Step outside, please." I blinked. HOA enforcement, with badges and uniforms. I smiled. "Sorry, I don't think you have jurisdiction here." They smiled back, fake confidence, the kind that cracks under pressure. One cleared his throat. "Sir, failure to comply will result in immediate action." I peeked out the window. They were inspecting my yard like detectives, measuring my flamingo, pointing at my grill, reading the HOA handbook like it was the Bible. Then came the megaphone. "Step outside now, or we will be forced to take action." I laughed so hard I nearly spat my coffee. A megaphone over a lawn gnome. Neighbors were watching. Mr. Henderson across the street whispered, "Are those cops?" I shook my head. Nope, not cops, just wannabes. I grabbed my phone, not to call anyone, just evidence. HOA harassment, fake badges, big trouble for them. They circled my yard, arrogant, loud, completely unaware. Inside I sipped coffee, calm, patient, watching, waiting. They thought they were intimidating me. They had no idea. I moved slowly to the door, every step measured, my heartbeat steady. They knocked again, louder, more aggressive. One of them pointed at my flamingo. "Violation, you must comply." I smiled. This is almost funny. They didn't know. They had no clue who I really was. I've dealt with cartel enforcers, drug rings, dangerous people, and now suburban HOA wannabes. I cracked the door a little, just enough to see them. They puffed up like they owned the street. "Step outside, sir." I leaned on the doorframe, smiled, calm, cool. Inside, I whispered to myself, let's see how dumb these guys really are. Their next move, that's when things escalated. I could feel it. My backyard barbecue was about to turn into a full-blown standoff. And the funny thing, they thought they had the upper hand. They didn't, not even close. The next knock was louder, their faces were red, aggression rising, and I was ready. I just had to wait for the perfect moment. They had no idea what was coming next. The doorbell rang again, louder this time, insistent, like they were trying to break my patience. I peeked through the blinds. Their faces were red, not with anger exactly, more like disbelief that I wasn't scared. "Step outside, sir, now." I chuckled quietly. Step outside, over a flamingo and a barbecue grill. I grabbed my phone, camera ready, recording everything, evidence, perfect. They started packing the driveway, pointing, yelling. One fumbled with his badge, plastic, chewed edges, almost funny. I thought these guys trained for intimidation, but forgot the basics. I opened the door just a crack. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" They froze, then one jabbed his finger at me. "You are in violation. You must comply immediately." I raised an eyebrow. Comply with what? My lawn ornaments? The other guy tried to look menacing. "This is official. Step outside or what?" I thought. "You're not real cops. You're Halloween extras." Then the megaphone came back. They couldn't resist it. "Last warning, step out now." I laughed. Oh, this is getting good. One of them tripped over a flower pot, almost face-planted. I couldn't help but grin. Neighbors were peeking, phones out. Mr. Henderson whispered, "Should we call real cops?" I shook my head. Let them watch, let them learn. Inside, I sipped coffee. Calm, calculated, waiting. They had no idea who they were messing with. They tried to circle the house. One even peeked in the windows, like a cartoon villain. I leaned against the doorframe. "Really, this is your plan?" Their leader, badge slightly crooked, shouted, "You will regret this." I laughed louder. Regret. Oh, they're about to. Then came the next surprise. A third SUV rolled down the street. I froze. That wasn't part of the plan. Or maybe it was theirs, trying to make me look outnumbered. Inside, I checked my phone again. Calm. They didn't see my other screen, the FBI secure line. I had eyes and ears everywhere. I could track everything, every move, every misstep. And believe me, they were making plenty. One of the officers tried to look tough, pulled out a little notebook. "We are authorized to take you into custody for HOA violations." I nearly spit out my coffee. Take me into custody, over a flamingo. I stepped fully into the doorway this time. Smiled, hands in pockets, calm. "Are you serious?" I asked. "You're going to snatch me for a garden decoration." Their faces turned redder. One stammered, "Why, you don't understand, this is enforcement." I leaned closer, whispered loud enough for them to hear, "Do you know who you're messing with?" They flinched slightly, then laughed nervously. I knew fear was setting in, slowly. That's when I saw it. The HOA president standing behind them, trying to look authoritative. Her sunglasses couldn't hide panic. I smiled, perfect. I moved back inside slowly, leaving the door slightly open, just enough to tempt them. "Don't try anything stupid," I said, calm, measured. Little did they know stupid was on their side. They looked at each other, confused, hesitant. Then the megaphone came again. "Step out now." I sighed dramatically. "Really, this is the best you've got." And that's when I decided it was time to push the suspense just a little further. I picked up my tablet, opened the cameras around the property, tilted, zoomed, every move captured, every step they took. Their jaws dropped. They didn't know I had eyes everywhere. I whispered, "You don't know who you're dealing with." And then a new sound, a faint siren in the distance. Not real police, my neighbors, maybe, but it spooked them enough to make mistakes. Their leader barked orders. "We can still take him." I leaned back, smiled, and muttered to myself, "Let's see how far they're willing to go." They had no idea, not even close. One of them made the biggest mistake yet. And that mistake would change everything. Next time, it's not just intimidation. It's a standoff, and they are about to find out why they should have never come to my house. The air felt heavier now. The SUVs hadn't moved. The men hadn't left. I stepped closer to the door, just enough to see them clearly. One of the fake officers pointed at me. "Step outside now. This is your final warning." I laughed, final warning, over a flamingo. They didn't get it. They thought yelling louder would help. One of them took out a walkie-talkie, pressed the button, fumbled with it. "We need backup. He's not cooperating." I raised an eyebrow. Backup, really? They had no idea who I was. I sipped my coffee, calm, unbothered, watching them stumble around like toddlers learning to walk. Then one of them tripped over a garden hose. Face first, I had to bite my lip to stop laughing. The leader, clearly frustrated, started packing. "Sir, compliance is mandatory. You will be taken in for HOA violations." I shook my head. Taken in, really, over a lawn decoration. Neighbors were gathering, phones out, watching. Some whispered, some laughed quietly. Even the mailman paused. I could see the fear starting to creep in, not yet full-blown but faint. Then the leader did something brilliant or stupid, definitely stupid. He tried to circle the house, slow, confident like a predator, only problem he didn't check the ground. A loose flower pot caught his foot. He tumbled sideways. Crash, dirt, flowers, and the sound of defeat. I shook my head. This is almost too easy. I stepped fully out onto the porch this time, just enough for them to notice. Calm, smiling. Enjoying the morning, gentlemen? I asked. The megaphone came out again. Step out now or face consequences. I raised my hand. Consequences, over a flamingo. The leader's face went red. He looked around, desperate. Then I noticed the HOA president, standing behind them, arms crossed, trying to look in control, failing spectacularly. I whispered under my breath, perfect. Inside, I checked the cameras. Every angle, every step, every dumb move they made. They didn't know, not even a hint. One of them started getting aggressive. Pointing a finger, stepping closer, I stayed calm, hands in pockets, like I was just talking to neighbors. You don't understand, he shouted. You will be taken in. I leaned slightly forward. Calm, measured, whispered so they could hear, do you really think you can intimidate me? They froze, hesitated, then laughed nervously. Their leader barked an order. Surround him. I smirked. Oh, this is getting good. The SUVs were blocking the street now. Neighbors could see, phones recording, perfect evidence. I stepped back inside slowly, door slightly ajar, tempting. Don't make me laugh, I muttered. They're already panicking. The leader started barking again. We have authorization, you'll regret this. I chuckled. Authorization, from who? The HOA god. And that's when I noticed it. One of them was sweating, trembling, real fear starting to show. I whispered quietly, almost to myself, you don't know what you're dealing with. The megaphone blared again. Step out or face immediate action. I sighed, dramatic, calm, yes please, take your best shot. Then suddenly one of them reached for a handcuff set. Plastic, cheaper than the badges. I smiled. That was their biggest mistake yet. Because once they tried that, the game changed. They thought intimidation and fake authority would work. They were about to learn the hard way that I wasn't just a homeowner with a backyard barbecue. Next time, it's about who really controls the situation, and it's not them. I opened the door just a little wider, just enough to make them think I was considering stepping outside. They froze. You could almost hear the panic in their minds. Step out now, the leader shouted. I smiled, calm, unfazed. You want me to step out, for what? My lawn ornaments? I asked, my voice dripping with mock sincerity. One of them puffed up, tried to look intimidating, failed, big time. Another fumbled with the megaphone. It squealed then cut out. Static, a high-pitched squeal. I nearly laughed out loud. I took a step onto the porch. Slow, deliberate, hands visible, calm. You don't understand who you're dealing with, I said. Their leader blinked, hesitated. The other guy glanced at him nervously. I could see their confidence slipping. Then the HOA president stepped forward, arms crossed, sunglasses on, trying to look commanding. I tilted my head, smiled politely. Nice to meet you. The president stuttered. You have to comply with HOA rules. I laughed softly. Comply, over a flamingo and a barbecue grill, really. The leader barked again. We have authority, step outside or what, I wondered. They had no real authority. None, just bad uniforms and worse attitudes. Then one of them lunged toward me. Small, desperate, fumbling. I sidestepped, calm, smooth, like I'd done this hundreds of times. Careful, I said, friendly. You really don't want to do that. They froze, every muscle tense, panic rising. I leaned slightly closer, whispered, step one out of line and you'll regret it, not with me, but with consequences you can't imagine. They looked at each other, uncertain, shaking. One of the fake officers reached into his pocket. I squinted. Handcuffs, cheap plastic. I laughed softly. Really, you brought those? The HOA president gasped. That's not allowed. I shook my head. No kidding. I glanced at my camera setup inside. All angles covered, every move recorded, perfect evidence. Then came the move I'd been waiting for. The leader stepped closer, chest out, trying to assert control. I smiled wider, calm, unbothered. Do you really want to do this? I asked, my tone casual but my eyes were sharp, piercing. They paused, hesitated, their confidence faltering. Then the unexpected happened. One of them tripped again, over the hose, face first into the dirt. I couldn't help it, laughed out loud this time. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, whispering. Phones raised, filming. The tension shifted. Fear started creeping in, not full-blown yet, but noticeable. I took a deep breath, stepped fully onto the porch, hands in pockets, calm, steady. You really think you can intimidate me? I asked. The leader's jaw tightened. We have authorization. I shook my head. Authorization from who? The HOA god. One of the fake officers started sweating, trembling slightly. Big mistake. Then I whispered to myself, just loud enough for them to hear. This is where it gets interesting. They didn't know it yet, not even close. I glanced at the SUVs blocking the street, cameras recording every move, perfect leverage. I stepped back inside slowly, leaving the door ajar, just enough to tempt them. Do you really want to risk this? I asked, calm as a Sunday morning. Then the leader barked again. We can still take him. I chuckled softly. Take me, over a garden decoration. And that's when it clicked. Their plan had a flaw, a big one. They didn't know I wasn't just a homeowner, not just a guy with a flamingo and a backyard barbecue. I had the training, the skills, the edge. And they were about to find out the hard way. They thought they could intimidate me with fake authority. They had no idea what was coming next. The moment I reveal who I really am, everything changes, and they're not going to like it. I took a deep breath. Time to end the guessing game. The leader stepped closer again, chest puffed, trying to look intimidating. You are coming with us, he barked. I smiled, calm, almost casual. Really, I said, you really want to do this? His eyes narrowed. Yes, step outside. I reached into my pocket, slowly, deliberately. Out came the FBI badge. Sleek, official, impossible to fake. Special Agent, I said, holding it up. Federal Bureau of Investigation, nice to meet you. A silence. The leader's mouth dropped. The other guy froze. Their confidence evaporated like morning fog. I took another step forward, calm, commanding. You're in way over your heads. The HOA president's sunglasses couldn't hide her panic. I could see her thinking, oh no, oh no. One of the fake officers stammered, why you ca? I raised a hand, calm, precise, oh I can and I will. The tension hit the roof. Neighbors were peeking, phones out, every movement recorded. Perfect. I stepped fully onto the porch. You've just been caught impersonating law enforcement, I said. That's a federal offense. Congratulations. The leader's knees went weak. He stumbled backward, almost tripped over the hose again. The other guy whipped out a phone, trying to call for help. I shook my head. It won't help. I could see fear fully setting in now. Trembling hands, red faces, their fake confidence completely gone. The HOA president tried to regain control. This is a misunderstanding. I laughed softly. Misunderstanding? You sent fake cops to intimidate a homeowner. You've got bigger problems than a flamingo in the yard. I glanced at the SUVs, blocked the street, cameras rolling, evidence stacked in my favor. "Here, what happens next," I continued. Calm, deliberate. "You're going to leave right now, and you're going to apologize to everyone involved, or it gets worse, for you." Their leader swallowed hard. "We didn't know." "You didn't know," I repeated. "You literally showed up with fake badges, a megaphone, and handcuffs. That's not ignorance, that's a choice." I took a step closer, eyes sharp, voice calm but deadly. "Let me make this crystal clear," I said. "I'm not just a homeowner, I'm FBI, and you are nothing." They all froze, sweat dripping, panicking. I leaned slightly forward. "If you make another move, I will personally ensure that your HOA dreams end in court. And yes, it'll be on every news outlet in town." The HOA president's sunglasses fell to the ground. I could see the panic in her eyes. The leader finally stuttered. "Okay, we leave." I nodded, calm, watching every step. They scrambled back to their SUVs, plastic badges gleaming in shame, megaphone bouncing on the seat, handcuffs forgotten. As the SUVs sped off, I leaned against the porch railing, smiled, calm, coffee still in hand. Neighbors were clapping, whispering, some still filming. I muttered quietly to myself, and that was the perfect Sunday. Inside, I reviewed the cameras, every angle covered, every mistake documented, federal-level evidence for federal-level idiots. The HOA president was nowhere in sight. I could only imagine her hiding behind her curtains, wishing she'd stayed home that morning. I took a sip of coffee, calm, relaxed. Victory never tasted so sweet. And yet, I knew this wasn't over. HOA drama rarely is. They'd think twice before trying to intimidate someone again, especially someone trained to handle much worse than fake HOA police. They thought their intimidation tactics would work. They had no idea what happens when the FBI plays backyard politics. Next, I'm going to show them exactly how serious it is when you mess with someone who can't be bullied. The street was quiet now, too quiet. The black SUVs were gone and the fake officers had vanished. But I knew the HOA president was still out there, somewhere, watching, panicking. She thought she could intimidate me, send fake cops, threaten me over lawn ornaments. She had no idea what she'd walked into. I grabbed my coffee and leaned against the porch railing, calm, calculated, observing. Inside, I reviewed the footage again, every angle, every mistake, every ridiculous overreach. It wasn't just about me anymore, it was about the truth. Because now I could see the bigger picture. The HOA president had orchestrated the whole thing, every fake officer, every megaphone, every threatening knock. All to scare me off the property. And she thought she'd succeeded. The audacity, the sheer, absurd audacity. I chuckled quietly. Oh, they're going to regret this. Neighbors were still peeking through windows, whispering, phones raised, filming, word would spread fast. I took another sip of coffee, calm, smiling. The HOA president finally emerged from behind her curtain, arms crossed, face red with anger and panic. "You can't do this," she shouted. I tilted my head, calm, deliberate. "Do what? Stop you from orchestrating a fake police operation in my driveway." Her face froze, then twisted in disbelief. You can't, we have authority." I raised an eyebrow. Authority over what? Flamingos. Neighbors were now fully watching, some laughing quietly, others whispering, phones rolling. Perfect. Inside, I had already drafted a little plan, not violent, not illegal, but clever. Clever enough to expose every ridiculous move the HOA had made. The fake cops, the megaphone, the handcuffs, the threats, every single thing. I could almost hear her panicking. She's going to make us look stupid, she thought. Exactly. I stepped onto the porch, hands in pockets, calm, collected. "Let me make something crystal clear," I said, voice steady, controlled. "You tried to intimidate me, you failed, miserably, and now everyone's going to see the truth." Her sunglasses fell off, face pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. I leaned slightly forward, whispered, just loud enough for her to hear, "You're about to learn that HOA rules don't apply when the FBI is involved." She swallowed hard. I could see the fear, the realization, the humiliation creeping in. I glanced at the street, neighbors, cameras rolling, evidence stacked in my favor. I knew one thing for sure. This HOA president had made a critical mistake. She underestimated me. She underestimated my skills, my calm, my patience. And she underestimated how far I could take this, without breaking a single law. I sipped my coffee, calm, relaxed, smiled. Victory was close. She thought she could scare me off the property. She thought fake cops and intimidation would work. But the game isn't over. Next, it's payback time, and not in a way she'll ever forget. I've got plans, cameras, and patience, and she's walking straight into my trap. The street was quiet, too quiet. The fake cops were gone. The HOA president was hiding somewhere, probably plotting her next move. But I had plans. Smart, clean, effective plans. I grabbed my laptop, opened the camera feeds, every angle covered, every moment recorded, every ridiculous mistake on tape. Perfect evidence, perfect leverage. I smiled, calm, calculated. This wasn't about anger, it was about exposing the truth, and maybe a little fun. First, I edited a short compilation, highlights. The leader tripping over the garden hose. Megaphone squealing. Handcuffs clattering to the ground. Every ridiculous threat they made. I added captions, dramatic music, subtle humor, perfect mix. Then I sent it to a few neighbors. Just a teaser. Nothing illegal, just public embarrassment. Within minutes, whispers spread. Phones pointed at windows. Laughter echoed down the street. I could hear the HOA president gasping somewhere behind her sunglasses. Next, I contacted a local HOA oversight office, explained everything, forwarded the evidence, very professional, very calm. The complaints started rolling in. Calls, emails, even a visit from a real enforcement officer to check the fake cops. I watched it all unfold from my porch, coffee in hand, calm, smiling. And then the piece de resistance. I scheduled a small neighborhood barbecue and community meeting. Casual, friendly, innocent. But I made sure the HOA president was invited. Of course she showed up. Sunglasses, stiff smile, arms crossed, thinking she could save face. I casually brought up recent events in the neighborhood, smiled politely, played dumb. Neighbors started whispering, phones subtly raised, cameras recording, every movement captured. I leaned in slightly, friendly, calm. Funny how some people think intimidation is the way to solve problems. Her face went pale, whispering to a neighbor, I don't know what she means. I smiled wider. Oh, I think everyone here knows exactly what I mean. Neighbors started laughing softly, whispers spreading. The tension shifted completely. She tried to regain control. That's not fair. I shrugged, calm. Fair, I'm just showing the facts, and the facts speak for themselves. I glanced at the neighbors, then back at her. You can deny it all you want, but the footage tells a different story. Her hands trembled slightly. Sunglasses slid down her nose, fear creeping in, total exposure. Then one brave neighbor said, Is it true she sent fake cops to your house? The HOA president opened her mouth and froze. No words. She couldn't lie her way out. I leaned back, calm, collected. Victory was sweet. Neighbors were clapping, whispering, phones still recording, laughter bubbling. I finished my coffee, calm, relaxed, mission accomplished. No violence, no illegal action, just smart planning, evidence, and patience. The HOA president finally slumped into a chair, defeated, humiliated, lesson learned. I smiled quietly, and that is how you handle fake cops in your driveway. The neighborhood now knows the truth. The HOA president has been exposed, but there's one final twist, a little surprise that seals the story and leaves them all stunned. Next, it's closure, justice, and a backyard barbecue they'll never forget. The neighborhood was buzzing, phones out, whispers, laughter, everyone knew what had happened. The HOA president tried to act normal. Sunglasses on, smile forced, arms crossed, but it was too late, the truth was out. I sipped my coffee on the porch, calm, relaxed, watching it all unfold like a perfectly scripted show. Neighbors came by, some just to chat, some to shake my hand, one even brought cookies. "You handled that so well," Mr. Henderson said, quietly, admiringly. I smiled, calm. Sometimes all you need is patience and a little evidence. The HOA president tried to speak, tried to justify her actions, tried to twist the story. I leaned slightly forward, calm, friendly. "You don't need to say anything, the footage speaks for itself." She froze, nothing to argue, nothing to defend, total exposure. I could see the humiliation in her eyes. Perfect. Then came the final surprise. I called a neighborhood meeting. Casual, friendly, barbecue, everyone invited, even the HOA president, of course. I stood in the middle of the backyard, smiling, calm, hands in pockets. "Neighbors," I said, "today we celebrate something important." Pause, dramatic, the truth. Laughter rippled through the crowd, cameras rolling, phones raised, perfect documentation. I walked slowly toward the HOA president, calm, polite, friendly. "You tried intimidation," I said. "You failed miserably, and now," I paused, letting it sink in. "Everyone knows the truth." Her face went pale, she tried to speak. No words. I smiled, perfect, victory, justice, closure. Neighbors clapped, cheered, some even whistled. The tension evaporated. I took a sip of coffee, calm, relaxed, mission accomplished. Then I revealed the final twist. "From now on," I said, pointing casually at the HOA president, "any HOA enforcement issues will go through proper channels. No fake cops, no megaphones, no intimidation." She nodded silently, defeated, lesson learned. I glanced at the neighbors, phones out, laughter whispering approval. I leaned back against the porch railing, smiled, calm, collected. The neighborhood had learned a valuable lesson about courage, about patience, about evidence, and about what happens when you mess with the wrong person. I glanced at the flamingo in the yard, still standing tall, still watching, almost like a silent guardian. The barbecue sizzled, music played, neighbors chatted, everything back to normal, except better. I muttered quietly to myself, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you survive HOA chaos FBI style. Even the HOA president couldn't argue with that. By the end of the afternoon, the street was calm, peaceful, quiet. The lesson: never underestimate someone, never try to intimidate someone trained to handle far worse, and never, ever think a flamingo is just a garden decoration. I finished my coffee, calm, relaxed. Victory never tasted so sweet. And as the sun set, casting a warm glow over the backyard, I knew one thing for sure. Some HOA wars are fought with letters and fines, some with megaphones and fake cops. But the best victories, the ones where patience, evidence, and a little humor win the day. Neighbors waved, phones out, cameras still rolling, perfect memories. I smiled quietly, calm, relaxed, satisfied. Because this wasn't just a victory for me. It was a victory for truth, for patience, for clever planning. And most importantly, a victory for anyone who's ever dealt with HOA nonsense. Every HOA has a story on HOA Headaches. You'll hear the ones they tried to bury. Subscribe today.